Today we're interviewing Dan Roach, a United States Army veteran, retired as a major, 20 plus years in the United States Army, a tour in Vietnam from March of '68 to March of '69, a platoon leader, a Ranger School graduate, Airborne School, 101st Airborne Division, and one heck of an American that we have locally here in Willows, California, which is just south of Durham. And Dan has an incredible life that we hope to share with you today, much so far and beyond his military service. A Boy Scout leader, an Eagle Scout troop leader. So Dan, welcome.
Thank you.
And we'd love to hear about not only your military service, everything you did in your civilian life, and we understand you wrote a book that is here today.
Yes.
And so please take us through what possesses a man to join the Vietnam War, go to Ranger School, lead men into combat with everything you had going on in your life. So take us there and what Dan Roach was thinking.
I'm probably going to say that somewhere along the line, life happens, and when you're graduating from college with a degree in forestry from Humboldt State, and the Vietnam War is going on strong, there was a decision to make, and my decision was to become an infantry platoon leader with the 101st. No, I didn't know about the 101st. Become an infantry platoon leader and go to what they used to call Benning School for Boys. And it was at Fort Benning, Georgia, and was part of the Fort Benning School was part of the Ranger Department, the Airborne School, and all those were in there together. I didn't know that, but once I got into that system, all those things were available to me. So knowing that I was going to go to Vietnam and deciding to be an infantry platoon leader and go through officer candidate school actually broke my dad's heart, because he was not in the Second World War, but all his relatives and friends and that were involved in it, and he was obviously concerned about my decision in life. And my decision in life at that point was really based on a tough time going through school. I had severe dyslexia that they didn't know what it was at the time, so they thought I was a slow student. And things just started to work out for me, and I said, you know, I think my best place in the military, since I'm going to serve, would be in the infantry. And if I can make it through officer candidate school, that'd be great. And it worked out quite well. That I graduated, went into Ranger training, since I was there with the department. That was probably one of the harder things in my life, and it was just wonderful. I mean, the testing, the skills, my fear of heights, and all of that got tested when I was going through Ranger School.
You got over that pretty quick, Ida.
And then I had the opportunity. They were going to be doing Ranger operations in the mountains of Dahlonega, Georgia, the Chattahoochee National Forest. And so they were doing airborne operations, and they said, well, we need to send a few of you to jump school. And there I was on my way to jump school, and it was just incredible, because once I got to jump school, since again I was with the Ranger Department, there were 3 of us that went down from the Ranger Department we'd all graduated from OCS together, had gone to Ranger School together. So here we are, headed to Airborne School, and they said, we need a student company commander. They stepped back and I was in front. And so I ended up picking up that responsibility to be the company commander for my Airborne School class. And I had the best time, because being a Ranger, as we moved from one class to another, I'd be marching my unit, and then they'd talk about Airborne, and I'd say Ranger. And said, Roach, give me a lap. So I'd have to run around while the company was double-tied me. And we just had a lot of fun just kind of playing off each other.
Yeah.
And it was just really, I learned so many great things about leadership in working with people that had issues. And I thought the company commander job was just going to be really easy, until the soldiers themselves said, no, you know, you're our company commander, you need to help us with some things. And we got into what was going on and helping them out in their lives as they went through Airborne School. So it was just really a gift all the way along.
Now, Dan, how tall were you when you went into the Army? is I've been told that you have a very similar story to Audie Murphy when you went to enlist, and that you kind of got rejected by other services and landed in the Army. Now, I don't know if this is a true story that somebody told me, but I'd love some clarification on it.
Oh boy, you know how to get me in trouble. I was probably close to 5'6".
Okay.
And a little bit shorter than that. And I went to a recruiting station where they were having Army, Air Force, Marines, and I kind of favored the Marine Corps. I thought that would be a really good choice, a good spirited unit. And I went down and talked to their recruiters, and they advised me that as a Marine officer, I had to be a certain height, and I didn't make it. And I should go down the line and talk to the Army. They had shorter standards. And so I went down the line and was talking to them, and we started doing interviews and things like that. And so that was my selection, to go into the Army. And you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Well, thank you for clarifying that story. So some people have had a lot of fun explaining it to me, and so I'm glad I could get the full version today. We had a gentleman last week that we interviewed, and we asked him, how'd you end up in the Air Force? He said, well, everybody else was closed, so I walked into the Air Force and signed up. So yeah, just neat how people end up where they end up, what gets them there.
And to me, it was just an interesting choice. I was born and raised in San Francisco. World War II was going on when my dad was there in the city and worked for Pacific Gas and Electric Company, and he was actually to stay locally rather than be in the service. But all our relatives were involved in different services. But for me, in watching what was going on in the time in Vietnam, it was just really a blessing that I went Army. Because I found out the different tactics and strategies that some of the other services were using in Vietnam didn't suit my needs, and the Marine Corps was one of them. This is sacred because it was more show than go. And I'd be out on an ambush at night, and the Marine Corps would be in the same area more or less, and I looked over and there was a group, I could hear them. And we were very particular about how we did our ambushes. And then I heard somebody say, take that hill. All kinds of firing was going on, automatic weapons. I went to the top of the hill and sat up for the evening. I mean, everybody knew where they were. And maybe that was the thing, they won't mess with us.
Yeah.
What we would normally do, and we go out of a fire support base to do an ambush at night, and I would attend most of them, just because to me, the leadership required that. I wouldn't be in charge of it, but I would be there to help support them. So we would go out at night, and as the sun was setting, we'd go through a site and keep on moving and say, this is going to be it. Move out beyond that site, and as the sun was setting, we would set up as if we were going to be there. When it got totally dark, we'd pick up, quietly move back to that other spot, set up, and that would be our ambush for the night. So we didn't want people to know where we were, so that there would be an element of surprise when they come poking around. And it worked great for us, and I think we saved lives that way.
Yeah. Now, did you go over with your platoon, or were you a replacement officer? How did you get to Vietnam and fall in with the 101st?
The 101st left Fort Campbell, Kentucky on the 27th of December, 1968. And I joined them 3 months later, so I was a new kid on the block. They had gone through 3 or 4 platoon leaders with a 3rd platoon. I actually was at an LZ with full field gear when I heard this platoon leader was wounded, and I said, I'm going in to a group that's in actual combat, never having been in combat before. That does a little bit of stirring inside somebody, knowing you're going into combat for the first time. And I'm going to add to this, the drama. When I was down at the helipad, the helicopter came in to take me to the field. There were 2 body bags on the floor of that aircraft. One of them was leaking. I moved in, sat down on the chopper, away we went, knowing I was going into a unit that was in combat. As that aircraft lifted off, I had an epiphany. and it served me well. And the epiphany was, hey, Dan, life for you as you know it is over. So how are you going to do this? Because you had a pity party getting here, and here you are, and it's happening. And the epiphany was, every day's a gift, and you make what you can of it. And that carried me through my life to this day, that every day is a gift. Add value. You've been spared, you're here for a reason, live that reason out and make value. That's why I ended up being with Boy Scouts, 20 years, I guess it was 10 years with my older boys, 10 years with my younger boy. There's 14 years between number 2 and number 14, so I have an only child with 2 older brothers. It was incredible. It just really, really served me well to be able to do that in life.
Now talk to us about your book. We talked a little bit before filming. Tell me the story about what spurred on this this book, and how long it took you to complete, and why it was so important to you to write down your experiences.
I was out walking my dog in Willows, actually at the intermediate school in their area. And as I walked my dog, it was one of those summer nights during when they were doing a lot of rice growing. It was kind of steamy at night, and there was the moon, full as could be, at a certain height. And I remember being on an ambush right alongside the South China Sea, and that moon was looking down at us, and the ambush became quite notable, and just it almost smelled like the atmosphere was such that my mind immediately went back to that experience, and the experience was so profound that I went home that night and I started writing, and I wrote that story, redid it, and then after that I was thinking, well, gee, remember this? And they all just started coming back together, alive in my system, at just, dropping a thought or an idea, they came up. And so I started writing these stories, and then I assembled them as such. Another one, I'll tell you, just crazy as could be. I was out of the field. I had done my 7 months as an infantry platoon leader. How I survived, I'm not sure, but I must have had some guardian angels that one of these days when I meet, they're going to be quite tattered, because things happened that I shouldn't be here. Having lived through those things, and all of a sudden I'm here at the helipad as a executive officer, getting ready to go to the field with a resupply that was there on the pallet. The helicopter comes in, and all of a sudden this dog comes down. Now, dogs in Vietnam were really rare for the most part. They were scout dogs, German shepherds, and or some little chows that were in the community, but very, very rare. And this dog that came down, you could see obviously was probably an illegitimate puppy from a German shepherd. But as I climbed on the helicopter, that dog came in and jumped right up in that helicopter, climbed between the pilot and co-pilot, and the pilot and co-pilot were elated. They were so happy that all of a sudden this dog, whose name was Lady, was gracing their ship with her presence. That aircraft took off, went out to the field. Lady jumped out and just started going amongst the troops, kind of as though she was looking for somebody. But it raised the spirit of the troops that she was there with them. And my understanding was a couple of days later, she hopped on another helicopter and returned to the fire support base. I mean, where does that happen?
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect it. And so there was a story there that this dog was there to help lift our spirits.
Man. And now in your book, you have a number of pictures that you took and brought back and have put into there to help tell your story. Yeah. And our viewers are going to see a lot of those throughout your interview as we go through. Where can your fans that you're going to have here, where can they find your book? Where's the best place for them to pick that up?
I self-published the book through Author House, and they have been the best friends that I've had with this book. I purchase my books through Author House. Other folks that I know go online and go through Amazon and pay 2 times as much for the book that they really would need to. And it's got 80-some colored pictures. I wanted to maintain the colored pictures because they told the story. I didn't want to shrink them down. I want them to be able to see and learn the story as I tell it. And so there's just a little over 200 pages in the book and 80-some colored photographs.
It's good for a guy like me that likes pictures better than reading. So that'll be great for when I get a chance to sit and read it. Were you ever wounded in Vietnam?
No.
Okay.
I was injured.
Yeah.
I had, cuts on my lacerations where I'd trip and fall or something like that. But I never, no. And one of the stories, I can't really figure it out, but it'll probably come out, where our company commander, Captain Holland, called in an artillery strike, and at the same time he was asking us to come up to the command post to get a briefing, and the enemy were right out in front of us, and he called in and one of the things we hated to do is give our position, because then all of a sudden they had coordinates. And I can't begin to tell you the times that they mixed up the coordinates. And so they called in a single round, and it hit right on our line and injured 3 people immediately. The shrapnel went over me. Well, first of all, I heard the round being fired from Sally. I looked up, and I saw that round come in. Right, it was swirling. You can see smoke and dust around that round. It went in and hit the line and exploded. And then all of a sudden, when I got to the company commander, he had this look on his face. I said, "Sir, what's wrong?" He opened up his shirt. He had a sucking chest wound.
Oh, geez.
And we started treating that, and then flew him off in a helicopter. We didn't wait for the medevac. The battalion commander was above us and came down and picked him up immediately and took him. And he was in Japan, I think it was, for about a year, living through that sucking chest wound. But, it just... And then we got another company commander. We won't go there, but he got replaced about 4 days later.
Okay.
And it was nice to see that the leadership was looking at our well-being with the command that was there.
So tell us a story about your pistol. There's a couple of the pictures, you kind of look like an American Wyatt Earp in Vietnam with your revolver. And how did you get a pistol, a private purchase firearm, to Vietnam? And I understand you have it to this day, and it's at your house. And tell us about that and having your own pistol with you.
Okay, as I was going, when I got placed on orders to Vietnam and was going to Vietnam, the soldiers that were coming back from Vietnam did a lot of coaching. They were pretty much all captains, all in either platoon leaders, company commanders when they came home. And they took us under their wing to try to help us to survive our tour in Vietnam. And they all said, you need to take a privately owned weapon with you. And so when I was on leave in San Francisco, I went down to one of the gun stores and I said, okay, I'm going to take a weapon with me.
Back when they had gun stores in San Francisco.
They don't have any anymore.
I don't think so.
and so anyway, I looked at what I wanted to take with me, and I said, okay, criteria. Probably a .38, because I could get ammunition. That's what the helicopter pilots carried, a .38 revolver. .45 would be another choice, because they had .45 ammo. So I looked at a .38 special, Colt .38, Colt .38 special. Took that with me, bought a holster with it, and under the jacket, right here, I carried that pistol. And the jacket was always buttoned, and nobody ever knew I had it, for the most part, other than my friends. And my folks in the unit, when we got into a situation where they need a tunnel rat, wasn't me, but they had my pistol.
Yeah.
And they would use that as a tunnel rat weapon. Yeah. And so I was able to get, like I say, ammunition from I took quite a bit with me, but I was able to take ammunition from helicopter pilots. They didn't really do an inspection when I came in. It was in with my gear. And since I was an officer, they let me through. Going home was a different story. I could have sold a pistol while I was there, and somebody would love to have it. But no, after having carried that pistol for over a year and having it with me and my best friend, I decided to go through and register it correctly.
Okay.
Now, when I took the papers to the company commander, he had a hoot. He says, "You're going to, try and take this home." It took me a month.
Oh, wow.
For the paper to go from, I was up at LZ Sally near Way, went down to the base in the rear area where they approved it, and I MPs and signed off on it. So I actually took it home correctly. But it was
you smuggle it in to take it home correctly.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Kind of the opposite way of what most people
I could have.
done.
But what hit me, the notion is that we could take enemy weapons.
Yeah.
Of certain type, not an AK-47. It was fully automatic. But you could take an SKS, some of which you have here, home with you. And no, I don't want that. But I do want to take my 38 home. And it has always served me well over the years. And when I'm leaving this world, it'll go on to my family. So as the Roach pistol.
The Roach pistol, all right.
Yeah.
Now your son is also a major in the National Guard today.
Not quite yet. He's a captain.
Oh, okay.
In the Army Reserve.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did all your boys serve in the military, or just your oldest? Just Seth?
Just my youngest son served.
Oh, youngest, okay.
Yeah, my oldest son, Jesse, they were all firefighters. We all were firefighters at one point. And so Jesse right now lives on the north end of town, and he runs a fire training center in Sacramento. My son Shane, number 2, he was a smoke jumper.
Wow.
And jumped out of Reading for a while, decided to go to the Bureau of Land Management because they were jumping a different chute. And so he ended up in Boise, Idaho, and he's up there and kind of serving through a back injury. And Seth is the one that decided to go into the Army Reserve and went to Kuwait and a few other places with our artillery. And is in the Army Reserve right now.
Gotcha. I have a funny story I always tell about our ammo draw. We had to go draw ammo in Iraq. And there's a chief warrant officer that's in charge of the ammo depot, and they're always just assholes. They just never, they have authority, but they can't enforce their rules. So you go draw ammo, and when you draw ammo in the States, you've got to have a tarp, and you got to have all your gloves, and you got to have your fire extinguisher and all the other stuff that you have to do this checklist to draw ammo. Well, you have the same checklist in country, but it doesn't have to be followed. You just go get ammo. And so this chief warrant officer, you don't have a fucking tarp, and you don't have your fire extinguisher, and where are your gloves? And, I'm just like, I'm just a specialist here to load. Like, the guy that's in charge is over there. Go bitch him out for not having all the proper stuff. I was just told, get in the truck, we're going to go get ammo. And so I had a mouth on me when I was in the service. That's why I didn't promote past E4. But it was, we get there and we're just loading ammo. And we got to do what we did in country. And this guy was just pissed off that we didn't have to follow any of his rules at the supply point. So it's just in country versus in the States is always such a crazy dynamic.
Well, I think I mentioned earlier about complacency as my biggest enemy was complacency. And C4 was such a neat explosive that you could light it, you could heat your C rations with it. And what I found out at one point in time is that we were out right next to the South China Sea. I think this was the one I mentioned about the moon that was up. And we had gone through our position, walked back to it, set it up, and it was dark. And there was a village out in front of us along this, it was a sandy peninsula that we were on, probably a mile wide. It went down into this village. And so we were set up at night, and all of a sudden as we got set up, it got really quiet. And it was like, uh-oh, something's happening. And I went out on an ambush that night because we had just come in from the field, and I felt it would have been poor form if I was spending my time at the officers club, drinking suds. So I went out on this ambush, not to lead the ambush, but to be with them and just see how good they were at setting up and doing that. But all of a sudden, it got totally quiet. And it was like, oh, something's happening. And I started looking around to see what was happening. I looked down along the coastline, and I could see 3 forms moving my direction. And you could see the 3 forms were holding a rifle. And you could see the moon reflecting off of a cylindrical bayonet like what you have over there. It was long, skinny reflection. And I said, they've got to be carrying AK-47s or SKSs. Could be a cap team. But no, I'm going to go that they were, with that bayonet, that they were VC coming up. They came up, and all of a sudden they made a left turn across our front. And we, at that time, were in what we call a triangular ambush. We had 2 positions and a 3rd position. And so that 2 positions at a triangular ambush could fire on the enemy at any time. So as they made their crossing, came across in front of it, I let the squad leader give the command, because he had the Claymore mines out and all of that. And he said, fire, and all of a sudden, we started firing. I fired at the 2nd person in line. I figured everybody would be firing at the first one, so I went for the 2nd one. And to this day, I'm blown away. Person dropped like a sack of potatoes. And the 2 that were in front, one front and one back, went and grabbed him. And at the same time, I heard as clear as a bell somebody holler, medic, from that group. And it was like, oh, crap, did we get you know? And all the indicators were still that it was an enemy group. And I said, no, keep firing. And the volume of fire picked up again. And then the tree line out in front lit up. And we had red tracers, and they had green tracers. All of a sudden, from that tree line, it must have been at least 40 or 50 people there in that line, in that tree line. Green tracers were bouncing all over the place around us. So we'd pick out a muzzle flash, and as soon as they quit firing, we'd fire at the muzzle flash and then duck down, and the green tracers would keep coming by. Meanwhile, at the fire support base behind us, it was not only an artillery unit that was there, but it was large tanks for fuel that came in. Oil and gas is what they were protecting along that area. And what we did is we stopped an attack of almost a company-sized unit coming in on us with 12 guys, no more than 15 in our position, and we were one of the positions. And so as our system cleared, I talked to the squad leader the next morning. I said, what happened to the Claymores? None of them went off. And so we found out that the guys had removed the C4 from the Claymore mines to make it a lighter load to go, complacency, and had used it to heat their C rations and stuff. And of course, that changed immediately.
Yeah.
And so we had, and there's certain things that happen in life with that squad leader. I believe he didn't know, or if he did, he learned a great lesson that night, because that would have been a perfect weapon to take care of those 3 people. And if that other unit decided to go in on us.
Forward, yeah.
But by them triggering their whole system, everybody knew they were coming, and so they figured, we're not going to chance it.
You guys are ready and you're prepared. They're not going to surprise you.
Yeah, so one little group of about 12 to 15 folks stopped kind of an invasion on the camp. The next night I got to go to the officers club, and I was sitting there and having a beer, and all of a sudden one of them said, hey, this is the time we heard the ambush last night. I had no idea that we were live in the officers club on a field radio, and they were listening to everything we did.
Wow.
And they were watching green tracers go over them, out into the area. And so we had a really neat conversation. Say, yeah, that was my platoon.
Yeah.
That morning, let me get you back to the ambush site, not drinking beer in the officers club. The next morning, we had a general come in that wanted to know what was going on. And I was really disappointed, because here we survived something that was just incredible, an attack on the base. And this general landed and wanted to see my body count. That was the big thing. Where's your body count? And I said, well, I don't really have one. But sir, come on over here, let's take a look. And you could see the drag marks, bandages, blood, where they hauled this one guy off. And I didn't mention it, but they also fired a rocket at us that night. And it was one of our own. It was a rocket they fired at. It didn't hit the sand, but it was like we found the case for it.
We did a company-sized mission to capture a 120 mortar that had been mortaring our position. And one of our guys, Ashby, screwing around with the picture, looking down the tube. And right as he takes the picture, the camera captures his face. There's a round hung up in the tube. And so we'd only been out maybe an hour, and our company had found the tube. Well, we call the mortar guys, and they come out to the field, and they pack it full of toilet paper. And then they pick the tube up, and they do this, and just bang it on the ground. It just slides out right onto the toilet paper. But the round was a United States Army round, made in America.
Wow.
So they were firing our own ammunition, our own 120s at us. And how Iraq got that, I don't know. How it got into the country, or was it stolen, or was it captured supplies? We'll never know. But I still have the picture and him looking down the tube, and there's a round hung up in it. So that's always the terrible thing when you're fighting your own munitions, essentially.
Yeah.
On page 112 and 113, you have a drawing from one of your soldiers, Sergeant McCabe. Tell me the story of why that's so important to you, and then we're going to bring it up on the screen for people to see it a little bit easier. But as they buy your book and they're reading it, but then they'll have a little bit of background on why this is important to you.
I think this is an important story or lesson on leadership. This was one of my best squad leaders. When I came into Vietnam, they had already been there for 3 months. He was one of the squad leaders that got with me early on and helped me learn my way into combat. What to do and what not to do. He was just very good. He was actually Navajo Indian, and every bit the Navajo warrior that you'd ever want in your organization. He was just really good. And then I started experiencing some things with him. And what I started experiencing is that he would say he was pinned down. And I didn't feel that was right. And so I took myself, my radio operator, and my medic, called us the Three Musketeers, into that area, and actually was in front of him. And I told him, I said, okay, what we're going to do is lay down a base of fire, and then you could withdraw. Since I was in front of him.
Yeah.
I said, please don't fire.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and he moved out. But you can see that there was something going on. And he was typically had seen so much combat. For me, I saw 210 days in my time when I was there. He had seen every bit of that. It was the Tet Offensive. And it wore on him. And so I asked him, I said, what is it that you would like to do? You've been a really, really good sergeant for me, and I want to make sure we take care of you. What is it that you would like to do? And he said, I'm a pretty good artist. And so we got him assigned to public affairs as a combat artist. And he did me the favor of sending me that photograph when I was home, and that's why I wanted to show it in the book. By taking care of him, he was able to do things like that and continue to take care of his life and not, get on him for, it's just the way things were. So I learned important lessons like that in leadership and taking care of your folks, not hanging them out to dry, not making examples out of them. But my big lesson was the group that I started the day with is the group that I had to fight through the day with and end at the end of the day, and hopefully the next day with the same group. And what do you do as a leader to find out what's going on with those folks and take care of them? You tuck them away, you don't put them on point and try and teach them a lesson. You take care of them, and then they take care of you.
All right, so tell me the story of the helicopter crash in your words.
Again, this is one of these crazy things that happen. I mean, that you respond to, and you work your way through them. And so I always looked at it as learning your way through difficult situations was one of my things that I had to learn to do quite well. So I'm now out of the field. I did my 210 days of combat, 7 months. I was at the helipad having a resupply go out to the unit. And all of a sudden, this helicopter comes in, lickety-split, sets down and says, "We need help, we need help." And I said, "Oh, you know, what's going on?" And so they needed some slings, some rope, and things like that. And at the helicopter pad, we had those things. Threw a bunch on the helicopter, and they said, "We had an aircraft go down, we need help." And so the two people on the helicopter pad and I jumped on that helicopter with no radios, no communications, to go out and help it. They had one person, say, pinned in the helicopter, and we needed help to lift it up to get him out. And they had one person that was already dead. So anyway, away we go, the three of us, out to the field. And as we circled the helicopter, you could look down there and you could see the crash. And you could also see a ring of aircraft that were circling that. I mean, they take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. There were Cobra gunships and just circling that site. So it felt pretty good. Went down in there and they showed us the helicopter. Somehow or another, because they thought I was the officer, I knew how to rig a helicopter to lift it. I had never lifted a helicopter. Where do you start? Well,
they didn't teach that in Ranger School?
We never crashed. We'd pick it up and carry it home.
Yeah.
But anyway, the fun part about it was I had a Chinook coming in to do the lifting on that helicopter. And so I got a big piece of sling equipment, and I figured, well, the best place to go is around the main rotor. Mm-hmm. And wrap the loop around the main rotor, put it in a loop, and then stood on that helicopter waiting for the Chinook to come in. And right under the belly of the Chinook, they have a hatch, mm-hmm. and you have somebody looking out, giving directions to the pilot, up, down, slow, fast, or whatever. So they come in just really perfect. And I started to hook the thing up. They kept coming in, coming in, coming in. I'm kind of short. Mm-hmm. And didn't have much room to go before I got squashed as that Chinook came in. And I just luckily hooked that through their rigging and rolled off to the side, and they barely touched, they just lifted up again. But it was enough to squash me a little bit, but I just rolled off to the side, and they lifted the helicopter. The medics and things were able to get the gentleman out, and I went for a walk. This is terrible. I was walking out of the area while they were doing their thing, because I'd already done mine. And I looked down and I saw a piece of helmet. I picked it up. And there was another thing over here, and I picked that up, and it was gray matter. Mm-hmm. And it was like from the pilot that died. And it shows the seriousness of some of these things, and how do you go through and do that. We saved at least 2 more lives by lifting up that helicopter and releasing the people that were trapped underneath it. And so anyway, they all took off. I'm there with no radio, and the people from the village are starting to encroach on the site to see what they could, anything left over for them. And I said, this is not a good situation. And I didn't really pay much attention to where we were. And so I said, well, we've been probably need to head up here. And all of a sudden it was whop, 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 whop. And they came back in, the ones that asked for the support materials, and came down and said, we forgot you. And I was thinking, oh my God.
Well, at least they remembered you.
Yeah, we climbed on, flew back to the fire support base, landed there. The supply company commander was livid because his helicopter pilots deserted their post. Not the helicopter, I'm sorry, their supply people deserted their post. Yeah. He was ranting and raving and saying how he was going to put him in jail. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's going to look kind of strange because I'm putting them in for the Soldier's Medal.
Yeah.
For saving a life under combat situations, because they did a great job. And he got so mad at me, he wanted to fight. Basically I said, well, throw the first punch, no problem, in front of some witnesses. We can do this.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm putting him in for the Soldier's Medal. And I went to my good friend Jerry Autry, who was a chaplain, and told him the story. And he had all the contacts and things to make that Soldier's Medal.
And did it go through?
It went through.
Oh, great.
And the crazy thing about it was, after I got home, I got one, which blew my mind, because I was, there with them, and I just put them in for the awards, and didn't, it's just the way it went. And I was so surprised to receive, and he sent me a note saying, hey, something's going to arrive to you in the mail, And Jerry Autry is a good old Southern boy. I think he's a Baptist minister, good friends. He's down in San Francisco now. He was on the East Coast, but oh my goodness, and it's that brotherhood, taking care of each other. And it was just a crazy thing that happened. But to all of a sudden realize that you're out there with no radio, no helicopter, it's like, oh,
nobody
crap.
knows we're here. Yeah. Nobody knows that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Had no idea where we were. But anyway, and it all worked out. Keep the faith.
Yeah.
It all worked out.
So I don't want to interject, but I feel like this would be kind of a good segue into post-military life. At
I was
point.
just going to start a Scouts.
I was going to say, that was not the last time you were left alone without a radio by a helicopter, was it? A certain search and rescue mission.
On Snow Mountain or something, or what?
Remember, you were going out. We were in Forest Service. 2 missing ladies. One was pinned. And you let the helicopter take off with your radio, and you were out there in the middle of the Mendocino.
Nobody's hunting you in the Mendocino.
Yeah, there was nobody shooting at me there.
No, but I'm saying, it's not.
That's a beautiful story.
I'm just saying, if you had a nickel for every time you were abandoned without a helicopter that took your radio, you'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
Yeah.
But I'll let you take over that. Just laughing at that, going, not the first.
Not the first time. Yeah.
No.
There still could be another time. You never know.
Never know.
All right. So Boy Scouts. Let's talk about what got you into being a leader, and then talk to me about how many boys you got through Eagle Scout, and what took you there. So obviously everybody knows you got into the fire service now and the Forest Service, and just take us through what brought you to serving with the Boy Scouts and your Eagle Scouts, and everything, why that was such an important organization for you to spend so much of your life volunteering for.
Okay. Let me take it back to that philosophy that I'm talking about. Somewhere along the line, as a result of my Boy Scouts and my being a platoon leader in Vietnam, my combat experiences, that, and I talked about the epiphany and things like that, every day is a gift, that somewhere along the line, I again took this philosophy about adding value and each day being a gift, and taking that into my outside life, my life with the U.S. Forest Service. And part of that life with the U.S. Forest Service took me to a place called, and I had just gotten married, met my wife through a Christmas card. The reason I call that book Gifts of War is that I met my wife through a Christmas card when I was in Vietnam. The community I grew up in San Francisco, one of the local radio stations was doing a broadcast type of thing saying, our troops are coming back from Vietnam and they're not being treated very well. If you have friends, family, brothers, sisters that are serving in Vietnam, give us their contact information. I got 13 Christmas cards. My sister sent me a note saying, you're probably going to get some Christmas cards. And I said, I've already wrote back, no phones, wrote back and said, yeah, I've got 13 and I'm answering every one of them. Being kind of a sleazeball, I'd spent a lot of time down in Georgia, and now I was moving back to the San Francisco area, and was thinking, gee, this one young lady that was writing to me, graduated from Mission High School, was going to San Francisco State, and really, really sounds like a neat person. So we started a pen pal relationship. She sent me her photograph, and it's in the book. It says "Feeling Groovy." She was standing there next to a poster in black and white that says "Feeling Groovy." And so I said, well, I got to send her a photograph back. So I sent her one that's in the book, in full field gear, standing there in the field, smiling at the camera, all this crap hanging on me, M16. And we started this pen pal relationship, and it was just incredible. As soon as I got back from Vietnam, we went out and had coffee. Neither of us drank coffee at that time. And had a date, and then started dating. And within 7 months, we were married.
Wow.
And married for 52 years, I think it was, that we were together for that time period. She passed away a few years ago, and I feel so pleased to have had her in my life. Just incredible. What a gift that I received if I hadn't gone to Vietnam.
Right. Where
does this come from? So you don't really know, as you live your life, where the gifts are going to come from. And it's really been incredible.
And then dovetail us into your Boy Scout career. And what makes you want to have Boy Scouts like Tim that you have to harangue and...
Well, sometimes a leader doesn't have opportunity to pick and choose their scouts, okay? So I'll just go that far. No, it's just been wonderful to have creative people involved in scouting that keep pushing me as a leader and do different things. And really, with what we did with our scout troop, and like I'd mentioned, I'd had my 2 older boys for at least 10 years and my younger at least 10 years. So there was quite a separation, and there were 2 different programs. And to go to the boys to see what they wanted to do, and then maybe even add a little more to it. Because we did things in backpacking, and with the younger group, we went canoeing in British Columbia. To take 7 or 8, 12 scouts from Willows to British Columbia, up into a different country, trade money, I'm driving kilometers, you go up 1,000 miles, make a right turn, and go out to the Bowen Lake Provincial Park. A ring of lakes that you've started canoeing area right here. You can circle all the way around the little portage and this, and come right back to the same spot. Geologically, geographically, that just doesn't happen. So we take the boys 3 days up to the Bowen Lake Provincial Park, 7 days on the trek, because you had to keep moving, and then 3 days coming home. And it was cheaper than scout camp, which blew my mind. And what an incredible experience. So I did that at least twice. Bill Shively did it 2 more times, and it was quite a treat for our boys to do that. So we did things like that.
In case you're wondering, Bowen Lake Circuit, 116 kilometers, 72 miles.
Oh, okay.
So it's a significant distance.
So the 50-mile hike, and they were really part of it. And I think the foolish thing I did is, one of the times we took the group from Mount Lassen to Camp Lassen, and then we went to our scout camp. And I barely made it home. It was just an incredible experience to do that sort of thing.
How many Eagle Scouts did you help?
I really couldn't count them. I think there were at least 10 or 12.
Wow.
In that area, and very, very fortunate that the Scouts wanted to continue down that path, because it's something that's with you forever.
Yeah.
Let me mention, one other thing in this. I guess it was with the Forest Service, and learning your way through difficult situations. And I seem to be blessed in life, and maybe it's Vietnam, maybe it's been being Tim Danley's scout leader, that not very many things frighten me.
Except Tim Danley?
Well, he never frightened me. But things happen in life that you just get carried into. And again, it takes the resourcefulness of the person to work their way through it, and be flexible to whatever comes. Like I say, learn your way through the situation. And I think that's an old Vietnam thing. There was one day here, well, up at Summit District on the Stanislaus, where I got a call from the deputy sheriff, a gentleman named Albert Miller. And somehow or another, he took a liking to me, and we'd go out on patrol and stuff like that. And one day he called me and said, "Hey, Dan, I need your help." "What's going on?" It was a Saturday, because I was going to go swimming with the family. And it was probably 10 o'clock in the morning or so. And he says, "Well, we have a group of 3 girls that were lost, and one's injured right now, out on the north side, the west side of the Dardanelle Cones, big geologic area." And at that time, I said, "Okay, no problem." Talked to my wife. I said, "Hey, I'll be back 3 o'clock. We'll go swimming." And so I went out to the trailhead. They had 2 horses. I took another Forest Service person with me. And this was the second night that she was out there, because the hotshot crew went out looking for her the day before and couldn't find her. And these are firefighters. I mean, down at 20 firefighters, that could not find her. One of the young ladies had walked out from the injury, so we knew the girl was injured, and she had another person with her. But the young lady that came out and was found on the trailhead never marked the route to where they were lost. So they looked for her with the hotshot crew, couldn't find her. Well, the luck of the Roach was that I was on horseback and we were going up the hill. All of a sudden I hear a helicopter coming in. And back then, radio communication, the handy-talkie, would get over the other side of the hill. So I said, maybe they found her and we need to go down and catch that helicopter. So we did that. We turned around, went down the hill, and I went over and met the guy with the helicopter. And I said, "Oh, you're not search and rescue." On the front of the helicopter, it was one of these old Korean War helicopters with the metal tails,
Yeah.
And on the front of the cab, it says experimental aircraft, 2 passengers only. Well, there were 3 people fishing. And so anyway, being Forest Service or whatever, I went up and introduced myself. And the guy automatically said, "Oh, I'm busted." No, that wasn't it. He had himself, another friend, and his son with him in the helicopter. And they were just fishing, having a great time. I explained the situation to him. He said, "Well," and I don't have communications down here. I said, "Maybe if you could take me up." I wanted to get up to the top of the Dardanelle Cones, because nobody ever gets up there unless you fly in. And so he said, "No problem. I have fuel. I can do this." And so anyway, I hop in the helicopter. We take off, start going up to the top of the cone to maintain communications. And I look down and I see somebody flashing red plastic at me. And I said, "Oh man, that's it right there." And so as we started to go down, he says, "Okay, I'm going to, let you off," because we talked about airborne and helicopter, air assault and all that stuff. And so I got down and close to one skid to the ground, and I jumped out. Unbelievably, just 50 yards away on this mountainside was a flat spot. Somebody had built something for a cabin or something, and this helicopter fit right on that spot. And so he, parked his aircraft, and I went up to the injured person, and she was a model. And I believe it was her right leg had a piece of volcanic rock roll over on her and pinch a piece of flesh out. And so anyway, I said, "Well, we got to get you the helicopter." And the pilot came up and said, "No problem, we can do this, I'll fire up the helicopter, carry her down."
So only Dan Roach would find a supermodel in the middle of a forest that needed to be evacuated. So.
The funny part about that was, I did the piggyback thing, and I had to watch my hand because it would start to slide up to where the injury was. And she'd scream a little bit and stop, and we'd readjust. And so I piggybacked her to the helicopter. He had the thing fired up. I gave her my radio, and she hopped in, strapped herself in the seat. Helicopter takes off, and they're going into Sonora, I guess it was. And I said, oh, this is great. No radio. I now have another person with me.
Yeah.
And so, and I misjudged and didn't take a flashlight with me because I was going to be home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
You gotta go swimming, yeah.
Went back down to where our horses were and said, okay, well, we're going to have to make it out of here. And it was starting to get dark. And so we started along the trail, had to wait for the full moon to come up to see the rest of the trail out of there. 3 o'clock in the morning, I hit the trailhead, and my good friend, the deputy sheriff, was just laughing. He goes, Roach, you're the only person I know that can pull this off. And it was like, pull what off?
Yeah.
I'm trying to survive here.
Yeah.
And so we traded the horses and stuff like that on the way back. But to go to that trailhead and then to go home that night, and my wife was saying, what did you do? And it was a blessing. Things came together, and it was just unbelievable. And the young lady tried to get hold of me later on, but I think I moved on by then. I only spent 3 years up at Pinecrest and then down into Willows. But it was nice to know that she was trying to get hold of me.
Yeah.
She ran into the medic up there and all that family type of thing. It was just really nice to be able to do stuff like that. Be there, make a difference.
Yeah.
Add value.
Sure. Well, Dan, today you brought with us your helmet from Vietnam. Explain just a little bit of what that means to you to still have it, and the calendar on the back.
Okay, I just want to mention to you that this is the type of helmet I wore in Vietnam. I couldn't bring that one home, but the camouflage cover that I had on my helmet in Vietnam acted as a calendar. The seam down the middle had 6 months on one side and 6 months on the other, and as the months passed by, I would put a line through them. And then the other funny part about this thing is, and I don't know if I can open it up. Oops, thank you. Is that this is the steel liner. And that was my bathtub in Vietnam when I was in the field. I would bathe out of this thing, shave out of this. And so the helmet actually worked as another device. So I appreciate you knowing that. And of course, I put the rank and the Airborne patch on after I got out of Vietnam. But this was my hat for quite a bit of time, and appreciate that.
Well, it sounds like you've lived an incredible life, and we're so happy you're here to share it with us. And if you'd like to know more and read Dan's 200-page book, please look on the web link below and order it. You will not be disappointed and understand more about Dan's life. And today we're blessed to have our sponsor as Northwind Aerial for Dan's interview. And check Northwind Aerial out and support them on their channel. All of Dan's information will be on our website, which we now have membership for. So for $20 a year, you can become a member of the Military Minute. You go to militaryminute.org and click Become a Member. It'll charge your credit card, and you can see the pictures and everything else we have of Dan, along with his space in our museum. So again, please become a member and support those that support us. Dan, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Mine too.
And so what we do for everybody, Dan, is we research them and we build their story out. And so the idea is this will be a self-paced museum. You can come in with hearing aids or earbuds paired to your phone, and you can read, and every spot will have a QR code you scan, and you can look at everything that person has.
Wow.
It'll also read you the information.
Wow.
Dad was in Vietnam. He was still in the Guard during the First Gulf War. Oh, look who showed up.
Daddy's home.
This is incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Been trying to get you here for a year and a half, so we finally did.
Really?
Yeah.
Nobody told me.
Every time I ran into you.
Hell.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
I'm blaming you.
I blame him every day.
You can blame me because I mean Sean told me the same thing. Tim, I've been trying to make this stuff work for a year and a half. And I'm like, yeah, we'll get to it, Sean. And it took me mentioning it to Julia and saying, hey, I've got this guy. You know, you should probably talk to him. And next thing you know, I'm out here once every 2 weeks. So.
Your dad was always a troublemaker. I remember him on the hikes.
Oh,
and people would come and complain to me. We're doing Lassen to Lassen, and I was always at the tail end of the hike. And all these people would come by and say things to me and whatever. Then I found out your dad was telling him to do different things when they ran into me at the end of it.
So the best one is we were sitting there because it was a 57-mile hike from the base of Mount Lassen to Boy Scout Camp Lassen. And I think it was like day 3 or 4 or something like that. So I'm hiking with my dad, and these 2 hikers, you know, we're going different ways. My dad goes, oh, they're sitting there chatting and everything. My dad goes, yeah, but watch out. There's a really dirty old man back there. Watch out, he'll come for you. Oh, okay, cool. They keep walking, and we stop for lunch, and then here comes Dan, and he has his trekking poles going like this. And he walks up to my dad, points the pole out like a sword, and goes, you, go stand at the corner. Here's time out. You told those people I was a dirty old man.
Following a bunch of boys up a hill, yeah.
When the hikers came, we were just laughing about it, you know.
It was 20 years ago. I can still remember that. My dad still remembers that story, and obviously Dan does too. Good times.
Yeah.
Very good times.
Feel so blessed that things have happened. And the incredible thing about it, we'll probably get into, is that I guess things happen for a reason. And all the way through my life, there was a lot of reasons. And after Vietnam, making it through that, you know, and I'll talk more about that, but oh my goodness, you know, what an incredible gift that I've had to be able to do the scouting and the other things that I was able to do. And I'm here at 84, and should have been gone a long time ago. The only thing I didn't do is bring my 67 Camaro.
Yes, my dad would love that.
Still getting it moving. But anyway,
I don't know anything about cars.